Career Podcast. Host Rachel Diaz, and this is a space where we talk about professional life and personal development to inspire you to overcome the challenges and grow in your career. And today's episode, our guest was invited to work from Brazil and move to United States throughout an expat opportunity, and she's going to share how was this journey, how she moved from one country to the other, and how was her journey in her career transitions. So a little bit about her. She has over 2 decades of experience, and her career transition went from law to ethics and compliance. Nowadays, she supports over 18 countries, and she works for one of the largest world retail organizations. Please help me to welcome Juliana Pimentel. Hi, Juliana. How are you today?
Hi, Rachel. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to learn from you. How did you get the visibility and be invited to work and build up your international career? But before anything, let's start from your introduction. Please tell us a little bit more about who you are and what do you do, Juliana?
Okay. Hey, everyone. I'm Juliana Pimentel. As Rachel said, originally from Brazil. My background is in legal. So I went to law school in Brazil, did a master's degree in Brazil as well. I started in a law firm, actually, in Brazil. And I worked in this law firm for 7 years. And during the time that I was working for the law firm, I had the opportunity to start working with a corporation that was a client of the law firm. And because of the meetings I had to do inside the office of this company, I fell in love with the corporate environment, and I decided it was time for me to make a transition from being an outside counsel to an inside counsel. So I applied for jobs available at the time. And that's how I got to work for this company that I work is a multinational company. And I worked there since 2007. I can't believe 18 years.
Yeah. Wow. What a journey. But it's been like 18 years doing so many things, right? And we're going to dive into that. But then, Juliana, moving abroad or being invited from working from one company from the company in another country and then get to the point that people recognize your work and invite you to go global and take some higher responsibility. That definitely doesn't happen overnight. And that's a dream for many of driven professionals. So tell us, how was your mindset? What were the habits that you've been developing throughout the years that got you to become visible and trusted enough to be invited to work abroad?
So I think the main mindset is to be curious, to have passion for learning, and to not fear change. So once you are inside a company, there are going to be naturally many opportunities for you to go beyond what is expected from your job, right? And if you see a possibility like a project or some work that you know it's important, but no one is willing to do it, and you know it's going to have visibility of people in areas, or in that case, if it's a multinational company, from a leadership that is in the headquarters or in the country that you want to work, why not? Why not to raise your hand? Because things don't happen naturally. They need to first trust you, first know about you, and then those type of opportunities appear for you. So I would say volunteer for a project that you know may have visibility overseas. Ask questions about, if you see a specific job that you're interested in, ask questions about what are the skills that you would have to develop, and figure out how you can work on those skills to get them improved, to be selected. And once you are working for a project or a task, or have a chance to have interactions with those people that may be your future manager or the area that you want to work for, try to do beyond what is expected from you, right? If you see an opportunity to do that extra mile, it's not unfair. I think you are investing on yourself, on the visibility for them to see what you're capable of, and be consistent, right? If you have an expected timeline to finish a project, comply with that, finish on time, ask questions, but do the best you can once you are in the spotlight.
Amazing. And I think it's also just that genuine interest to help really understand what exactly do they need? What my team needs here. And I think when you come from this, like you said, with the curiosity, and then you just start, I think, gathering more insight of how you can help more. And I think that naturally will take you to the path. Hey, I want to raise my hand here because I want to help with this because I see there is a need for that. And sometimes we don't know how the opportunities can unfold when you are volunteering for something.
What happened to me. Yes, that's exactly what happened to me. So I was in legal department, and then the head in Brazil, and then the headquarters of the company, because of a specific law, a regulation in US that the law still exists, is applicable to other jurisdictions where the company has operations. They identified the need to implement a compliance program to abide by this specific law. And there is not a compliance area in the company in Brazil at that time. So the head of the legal area was asking generally, does anyone speak a little bit of English? Because you're going to have to do some meetings with this US law firm to understand what they need, what needs to be implemented. And I was like, oh, that's huge. Like, I'm going to have, like, my English is not perfect, but I think it's a good opportunity there. So I raised my hand, and then like at the beginning, I had nothing about the law. I thought it was like a small project. Okay, let's talk with these lawyers, see what they want, provide documentation, implement a policy or a procedure, and that's it. But at least I had the chance to have this exciting time interacting with a US law firm. Oh, how excited. So it started like that. But then one thing led to another. And then in a couple of months, they said like, well, actually, we're going to have to implement a whole area. And because you're already working on it, you're going to be the senior manager for the area. So like, why to go and interview others if you're already, now you know about the law, now you know what's the need, now you're already identified what are, the business areas that we need to talk with. So you're going to be the senior manager. So one thing led to another. So it was because of my curiosity and I was excited for the opportunity to have this visibility for a short period of time. But at the end of the day, it became an area that, led me to have international travels because I was part of this area. Other areas of legal and compliance were not invited for international travels to the headquarters to discuss things related to the area. Only people that were in that area. And I was like, oh my gosh, suddenly from 1 year to the next year, I start doing international travels to come and talk with the leadership of the area in the headquarters. So it's exactly as you said, you never know what a small opportunity when you volunteer and are curious and wants to have an extra exposure to learn something, what that can lead you to.
Wow. So that became an actual department, the project that you were initially working on.
Exactly. When I started, I thought it was just okay, yes, a couple of meetings, provide information they want, and they will do the job. But then it became an area that didn't exist in the company. And they saw no reason to interview since I was there since the beginning. So they naturally hired me for the area.
Amazing. And how was it, Juliana? So I know that you know what you want, and that's pretty much how the driven professionals they perform. Like they have an idea, or at least when they have the clarity, not always we have that vision of that stairways, but we have that idea of what's the first step 1st. How was you to initially understand that I need to improve my English? Let's take that as an example. In order for you to work with this team from another country, you had to have at least a level of English to be able to communicate. Yes. So how was that for you? Because you didn't start studying when the opportunity arose, right? You were
actually
doing that before.
Started in my previous job. When I was before the company, I was in the law firm. And when I was in the law firm, most of the clients were companies. The clients that I was dealing with were companies that had bases in Brazil, but some of them were multinational companies. And one of the companies, they seemed to have some work contracts that they needed some lawyer, like external lawyer, to help them to develop those contracts, to negotiate those contracts. And they were in English. And nobody in the law firm was fluent in English. And I was like, okay, I wanna have that exposure. So this, I'm talking, is, I don't know, more than 7 years before that opportunity in the company. And then I decided to take a vacation, like a 2-3 months vacation, and invest in myself to come to the US and to do like a study English for 2 or 3 months. I stayed in Boston. I came with my money. It was not an investment from the law firm, because I wanted to improve my English and be the one to be dealing with those international contracts for the company. So because of that, I started improving. At that time, my goal was the contracts, the international contracts. I had no idea that I was going to end up working for a multinational company, but it started there. And then when the opportunity came, I had enough confidence in myself to raise my hand and say, like, okay, I can talk with those US lawyers, because I had the opportunity to improve my English before. So yeah, one thing
That's amazing.
leads to the other, right? And exactly as you said, I don't know today. I don't have clarity today where I want to be. Like, I hate when people come with the question, where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. Some people know, and I, to be honest,
Yeah.
I am a little bit jealous of those people that have a lot of clarity, but I have clarity on what is the path. I know which direction I want to go. So having decided to study English when I was in the law firm was very important for that opportunity that I had more than 7 years later when I was in the company.
Yeah, and we are taking the language as an example, right? I think there's so many other aspects, so many other things that you can take the approach today, you can take that action today. I mean, let's think about nowadays. It's AI, technology, or so many things that are just, changing. But back in time, and especially for us, I know I'm also from Brazil, so we know how important English is. So right off the bat, we know if I want to grow, if I want to have if I want to grow and if I an opportunity in a multinational, the minimum barrier here is learning English. But we are taking this as an example, but there's so many other things we need to invest. So beautiful, Juliana. That's what that means, being a driven professional. Like you invested, you took money from out of your pocket. I'm going to the States, I'm going to study. And I bet that this is when you went for your first time. When you went back, you were never the same again. This is when you probably started the next.
Exactly.
Right?
When I came back after the Boston experience, I was like, I want to one day to live in this country. I love the culture. I never been to US before. I love the country. I love what I saw. I love the city. So I was like, okay, that is now on my next steps. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'll keep that in mind. So yes.
Juliana, you come from a large company, and I know because we also work together in this company, and we know there's a lot of people. So what I would like to dive in a little bit more now is that once you have an idea of where you want to grow towards to, and in your case, you had this opportunity, an entire department was created. And you had the opportunity to lead that, and you kept growing, right? So that was in the past. We were talking about many years ago. How can professionals grow in their career without losing the sight of integrity? And I want to talk about that with you, because you are the compliance lady, a reference, a go one for integrity. What would you say that, especially in this competitive market nowadays, it's so competitive, but how can we keep our ambitions to grow and move forward without losing the sight of who we are?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And it's very important. Like, if you think through all the places you passed through during your career, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as a person that has integrity, that is, has your own values, and you stick to them when you are in front of a ethical dilemma? And I'm not talking necessarily about like something big, like, oh, like we need to deliver this and there's opportunity to bribe someone. I'm talking about something even, way smaller than that. When you're dealing with your peers and you have a chance to do something that would betray this person, and then you're gonna get the job, right? It could be easy depending on the situation, for you to think about, oh, if I do something wrong, very little here with my peer, I can get an advantage and he or she will not. And there's opportunity for me to grow. But like that doesn't last. When you don't act with integrity, sooner or later, mask will fall, right? What we say in Portuguese.
Yes.
The mask will fall off of your face and everybody's gonna see the truth. I think it's very important for you to stick to your values, be ethical. Things that you gain with unethical behaviors, they don't last. They tend to be discovered and that's gonna ruin your career. And in addition to that, I think it's important to remember that in the past, and not long past, like 10 years ago, you could hide things way better than today. It was difficult. Even if somebody discovers something that is not so good about you, it would take time for the news to spread. Nowadays, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's connected. So you see that happening. If harm is done to an integrity of a company or a professional, chances are that the news are going to spread very fast in your area, globally, in your industry. And then once you do something wrong in your career, you may be ruining your career forever. So I think you need to remember that. I think things that are more valuable are those that are built with like strong foundations, and a foundation based on integrity is the build your career in lies or betraying peers or doing something unethical against the policies of your company or against the law. If you're caught, your career is ruined. So I don't think it's worth. We see many examples in different industries, and it's absolutely not worth it.
Your reputation, that is so important. Your reputation is your identity, right? And and on that note, I also like to think about how important it is to connect your own values to where you want to work for, because as you mentioned, you know, you really need to make sure that you're working for a company that is aligned to what is the highest values for you.
Absolutely.
Integrity is a main one. You want to be the same person at work, the same person at home, everywhere. And if that doesn't align with your own values, that's going to be very challenging and really hard to work for.
I decline even to go to interview, like initial interviews to companies, because I knew about something like ways of working in the company that were questionable based on my ethical principles. And I said like, it's not worth it. I'm not even interviewing. I don't even hear about a job offer on this company.
Wow. Yeah. Yes. That's something that I wanted to hear from you, because that is very common, especially when we talk about the market today. It's so competitive. And you're saying something, even small things that can be how you portray yourself when you're talking with your boss. How do you talk about your peers? How you talk about your reports, right?
Yes.
We don't have to diminish anyone to grow. You don't have to say bad things about others in order to grow in your career.
That's right. And I had experience. I think there is somebody that you interviewed in your podcast that used to work. I interviewed her to a job at Walmart, and I remember I don't think I don't think I ever spoke with that about to her, but at some point I realized like she is going to outgrow me a lot. She is way better. She has a lot of skills and the ambition. I was sure that she was bigger than me, but at the time I had I think a one level higher position than her. But I never thought about saying something bad about her or talk about to use that to leverage my position to gain something, because I knew that she was going to be brilliant. And the benefit of it, like now we work for different companies. She's in another continent, had a bunch of international jobs, and the benefit of that is like she's a great friend of mine now. Like if I travel, the other day I was traveling to Europe and I had a chance to meet her and to have a coffee. And it's like the most grateful thing, not only for the professional, but being ethical with people will bring you good friends for life. And who knows, in the future, doors can be open for a future professional opportunity. But if you burn those bridges, when you're working with somebody because of an unethical behavior, you're closing a door. You're closing a possible door for yourself in the future as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And you know what that is as well, Juliana? That's confidence. And that's so important. I want to mention that that's something that a lot of leaders, they struggle with that confidence. You know, when they see someone that is not that best, not better than, it's when they have different qualities. We know we are all unique. We have our unique talents, our unique skills. And it's even much better when you actually have these people that are better than you at some aspect, because you learn from them. You admire them. They inspire you, but you need to work on your confidence.
Yes.
If you don't have confidence, this is when you feel threatened. I feel threatened because that person is better than me. And then the whole thing that you just mentioned now wouldn't be the case.
Yes. And that's absolutely right. Because even if you're working in the same area, you for sure have different skills and you both can excel in different fields, subfields of your area. So there's no reason to be unethical with somebody you work with.
So now, Juliana, that you are in a global environment, especially in the headquarters, so you are 100% surrounded by professionals from all over the world. What does it take to stand out and keep growing?
Yeah. So in my case specifically, I'm in the United States of America, and my area field of expertise is law and compliance. What I did first when the first years I was like acclimating, and most of my work was with international markets, not so much work related to the US market. But I was interested since the beginning to have more experience with the US market, but I went to law school in Brazil, not here. So one of the things that I did again, I stepped even bigger than the other one to pay for my studies of English in the United States. I applied and I did a 2 years LLM. LLM, for those who are not in the legal area, is a master's in law. So I did a master's degree in US law in a university here in the US to gain more expertise in US law, because the law system in US is way different than the legal system in Brazil. So I invested again in myself to be ready, right? Because I was like, okay, while I'm doing this, and I know that here in the company, in the headquarters, there are people from US, of course, majority are Americans, but there are people from all the other countries where the company operates, and everybody wants to keep up with their career, to grow, to find their next step. And I was like, what can differentiate me from the others? I already have the international experience, so I know how the challenges of the market. That was one of the things that they wanted to bring me here, to be able to, from here, to manage those compliance related matters in international markets. But how can I compete with the employees of the company that are Americans and they have legal background? So I went to the law school again to learn US law. I still don't have a fully dedicated US matter, but now I have, my position currently is a global position. So I see matters in the international markets and in the US. I still maybe in the future can have a role that is fully dedicated to US, but like it doesn't happen overnight, right? You have to gain a technique. So that's why I went to study the US law, and then you experience, you work for some years in there, including some US related matters, and maybe in the future you're prepared for that. So I was putting myself in a position to be able to compete not only with those that only have international background, but also with the ones that are Americans and have a background in US law. Yeah, that's an example. I think you need to be, again, observe what are the opportunities, right? Talk with people in those areas that you are interested in working with. Understand what are their challenges, what are their goals. See, based on your experience, how you could be helpful for the area. Apply for jobs, do interviews, internal interviews. But once you realize that there may be something that you don't have, some skill that you can improve, start now. Start now, because one day the opportunity may come and you will want to be ready for it.
Once you see job posting internally and that is interesting for you, maybe that's an opportunity for you again to go and connect with those people, especially if it's an internal opportunity, to learn more about that, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes you're not going to find time in the agenda of the hiring manager to talk with them, but they have already, most of the time, there is a team that is already there. So find someone in the team, someone that is your potential future peer, or even someone in a lower position than the one that you're looking for, and talk to them. Just talk to them. Hey, like coffee or 15 minutes. I just want to know, what are the biggest challenges? What are your main clients? And so with those very simple questions, you can get an idea on what is expected from that position. And then you can have a better sense, am I ready or not? And sometimes it will take you to go apply, do the interview, and only learn as part of the interviewing process what are those things that you don't have. But like, go to the interviews, not necessarily with like, I want to get this job, but like to make sure that you understand what is needed and ask for feedback at the end. I always like, I applied for many positions like lateral moves. That's another thing that is important. I think you should not focus all the time on change areas being promoted. Sometimes, and I did that many times, lateral moves, you're not going to a step further. You're like a step aside, but you're gaining experience. And once you collect all that experiences that may be needed for that other one, then you may be ready for the next move. And I think companies see that with good eyes, at least here in the US. The culture, I don't know much about Canada, but I believe is similar. They see with good eyes if you are doing lateral moves to gain more experience. They see you as like a well-prepared candidate for promotion if you're already passed through different lateral moves.
Yes, I totally agree with that. That's one thing that I usually recommend to the professionals that I work with, because you're building up your experience. So you're really preparing. And especially nowadays, the trends are, we will have much more companies that are having one or two, even three roles in one. So as more you learn and build up yourself with the knowledge, chances are that you can get much more opportunities. And this is when then we step up the game, because you're just, as you said, you're just gaining all that experience and then you go up. Sometimes we need to step back a little bit or on the side, but that is one thing that is super important. That is a strategy, Juliana. Yeah. Thanks for that.
And I had a very interesting one. I was in the US for less than 2 years when there was a big reorg in the area. So a big reorg, those reorgs that pretty much nobody has a job, and here's the list of the new jobs. Good luck. Apply for those, or you're gonna have a severance package. That happens all the time. I don't say that with the regret, but I was not used to that and how that works in US. And I was like, I just moved from another country and now I'm in front of this situation. What am I gonna do? And I see people getting those jobs that were interesting to me. And I was like, almost nothing. The things that are left on the list of, the new organization, I don't have experience doing none of that. So what I did, I applied for a position that was 2 levels below mine. According to the labor laws here, this is possible. I know that some jurisdictions you cannot have a demotion, but here in the US, it is allowed. So I took a 2 levels down job because I think this area from all those that are left are the ones that I have more possibility to learn. So I stayed in 2 levels. I was director. I went back to manager. So it's manager, senior manager, director. So I was director, reorg. I got a manager position, but I saw potential there for me to learn and to have contact with so many other different areas. So less than 2 years later, I got promoted again in one promotion, 2 levels up. So I became director again in that area. And the experience I got from working for 4 years in this area is where I got all the knowledge and the strength to apply for the position that I am now. So it's exactly as you said, sometimes not even lateral. Sometimes it makes sense for you to get a demotion or a 1 or 2 steps back to gain force, and then you can move to something else that's going to bring you even more fulfillment.
Yes,
You have
I
to be
like that.
resilient. You have to be resilient, be patient, because things in career, they don't happen overnight at all.
Exactly. And Juliana, nowadays you are in a leadership position. So you are in a position to teach others and mentor. And I know that some people talk to you and they go to you to get some advice. What do you usually say to those that are working hard, doing all of those things that we are saying here, but they are still feeling overlooked and kind of like stuck in their careers? Have you seen that happening out there with your team or with someone that you know? And what do you usually share with these people?
Yeah, well, one thing is be resilient. Like you need to be resilient. You need to understand something is off. You may not know if it's with you, if it's with the area, or if you're not, the company and yourself are not longer a good fit, and maybe you should start looking externally if you think you're really stuck. But before you take that decision to go see something externally, I would ask, are you asking honest and open feedback from your leadership about your work? Or are you talking to them about what are your goals? Where do you want to go? And ask them, what is missing? What do you think I need to develop in terms of skills on myself to be able to be considered for those positions? Most of the leaders, it's different culture. Some people don't like to give honest feedback, but you can ask your leaders, you can ask your peers, you can go and ask to directly to leaders in the positions you are looking for, and having more clarity on the expectations. Once you have clarity, be humble to recognize, do I have everything that they say it's needed? Because sometimes you think it's just because, oh, it's been 3 years that I am in this position and I am always according to the expectation. Sometimes I'm exceeding expectation, but you may be exceeding expectation for that position, not necessarily for what they are looking for in the next level. But if after asking for those feedbacks and understanding what is required and trying to understanding what do you do, and you still think it's not happening, then maybe it's the time for you to look, is it really where I want to be? Do I want to go and try to work somewhere else? And if that's the answer, again, do an assessment. Am I ready to whatever I am looking for in another company? And sometimes it may be the case for you to give a step back, move to another area in a position, a lateral move, or even one level down, to get exposure for other people to be able to see what you're capable of. And then maybe sometimes, not saying it's always, but sometimes it may be a problem with that specific leader, right? So if you go out of that under this leadership and move to another area, even if you have to give a step back, and so you have a chance to be seen by someone else that has a better, leadership style, maybe that's what is missing. I think you should not just give up, but do not settle if you're not having the clarity on what is missing. Sometimes the problem may be with the leaders. So maybe it's time for you to change companies or to change to another area inside the company to have a leader that is more open to talk about your career with you.
Yes, that's key, Juliana. That's key. I like what you said about asking for feedback. Sometimes not like a very formal feedback, but coming with this approach of learning. If I come to you and you're my boss, hey, Juliana, I'm trying to understand, am I doing the right things? Where am I not succeeding your expectations? Really trying to understand what's happening here, because you said something. Sometimes you're so busy and thinking that you're accomplishing so much, but that's not exactly what was expected from you.
Yeah,
and this
what
is when
they're
we have
looking.
the
Or sometimes bring real examples, right? If they were with you, a boss was with you in a meeting, a committee, or they were copied in an email that you send a monthly report, something like that. And then you ask about that. Say, hey, that meeting, they asked me about an idea and I gave this idea. Do you think the way how I approached the problem was appropriate? Maybe if you talk about specific examples where you believe you were excellent, And then you ask, how do you think that specific meeting went? Have you heard about me from X, Y, and Z people? What do they tell you about my work? Because sometimes it's not just your relationship with your leader, but how other areas that our clients are seeing you. So it's important to get a sense on how they see you. And from that, you can better understand, okay, what do I need to improve?
Yeah, because most of the companies, they have that calibration meeting, and here is where you need to have your influence across the team.
Yes.
Again, back to what we were saying, we were talking about, that's why not being honest won't work, because you don't have to portray yourself to your boss, and then you might be that person who is the 100% for your boss, but then at the same time you're just walking over your team. Because then when you have those type of meetings, your team, those team members, they're going to talk about you.
Yes.
And you need to have a good influence, being honest.
Yeah. How your peers see you also matters. Yeah.
Exactly. Having that integrity, right? Being the same person, because then your peers are going to be there to either lift you up or really try to get rid of you. You're not really making sense to work here. Well, Juliana, our time is coming to the end, but before we wrap up, what would be like one drop of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience today?
Well, I think the basics of it all is to know yourself. It seems very basic, but sometimes you ask, what do you want? Not the question, where do you want to be in 5 years, but be mindful what makes you happy and satisfied with your work-life balance. What makes you be fulfilled with purpose on what you do? Like, are you happy with your work? Or be mindful of how satisfied you are where you are, and have clarity on next steps. What would you change in how you do the work, or the area that you would like to work that would fulfill you better? So I think basically the most important, know yourself. It all starts with you, and don't depend on others, because as the name of this podcast, a really successful career is a career that is driven by yourself.
Yes, be driven. Exactly. Thank you so much, Juliana. Thank you so much for being here and sharing so much wisdom with us.
No, it was my pleasure. I hope people enjoy what I brought here, and happy to talk with you.
Thank you. And for you, thank you for staying here, for sticking around, for watching our episode. I hope, that's our hope, Juliana and I, we hope that this inspired you to really take action to, to your dreams, to that step that is going to help you thrive in your career, whatever you are at in the world. And we would love to hear your comments. Tell us, are you building your international career? What are the other things that you would like to learn and hear more about this topic? And don't forget to give us a like and subscribe so that YouTube understand this is a nice topic, and then you can learn much more about what does that mean, being a driven professional. We will come back next week with another amazing episode. And until then, stay driven.
Stay driven.